Good morning, Zach. How are you?
I'm Granby. You too? Did you ever take Spanish?
Life is good. I did take Spanish. I took Spanish 1 like 3 times.
Same.
Same
Like
with,
6
same
for
with
me.
German.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
welcome. Looking forward to today, episode 231. For those that are keeping track.
231. I see you're wearing a fancy shirt over there. You didn't give me the memo. I could have worn mine.
Well, yeah, the Startup World Cup. It lives on. We continue
It does.
to have guests, and
It's probably been 7 weeks since then, and we're still talking about it.
August 28th was the Virginia regional event. Yep. Air date today is it's 10/10. Yeah, so almost This is what, 6 weeks?
5 to 8 weeks. Yeah, so someone in there will do math. Had a great qualifier. People had some great things to say about it. I think I told you this on the recap show, but I didn't realize that Gary went up there the whole time with IV and arm, right?
Well, it's interesting. Leading up to the event, we were like, "Gosh, we hope that we can get. We really, really would like to get ivWatch to participate."
Mm-hmm.
They're the just one of the they're the big dogs on the block when it comes to startups in the area.
Yeah,
really wanted them to participate, and even leading up to that, Zach, you were saying that Gary is the real deal. He's a great speaker, and he held true to your predictions.
Yeah, but I didn't know he had that thing on until I rewatched the replay later. I'm like, oh man, this cat had this thing in the whole. Wow, like.
Yeah, because I guess like I could hear it beeping, but I just like with this show. We have distractions, things happen. We just roll with the punches. We don't pay a whole lot of attention. We just keep pressing through. So I could hear the beeping and whatnot. And I didn't realize that there was needle in arm.
Yeah, pretty wild. Now, he performed on stage at the big shindig recently. It looked like from the pictures that you did not have IV in arm for that. Is that true? Or is it just
I didn't. I mean, process. They only gave us 4 minutes. So, and then let's just say I was persuaded by someone in the room with me not to put an IV in my arm.
Oh, come on!
How long before? So at our event, when did they put the needle in your arm?
Like Please say 5 p.m.
No, we were. It was right before we went up there, and so the former governor was sitting there. Everybody's watching us. So I had Nick Gloucher, and I took my jacket off and I put my arm out, and he's like sticking a needle in my forearm, and everybody's watching me instead of the pitch that was being presented, and they thought I was like having a medical episode or something.
Well, I mean, a lot of projectiles happened, a lot of needles, a lot of sharp objects. People throwing knives at former governors. Nick putting in a needle in your arm, potentially. People think
it was real. It hurt.
I bet it did. Nick needs to learn how to put in a needle a little better, is what you're telling me.
Well, he put it in purposely so it wasn't in the vein.
Oh,
so it was actually extravasating in my arm while I was talking. That's the first time I ever given a talk while my arm felt like it was on fire.
Oh my God! This man had the Michael Jordan flu game on stage at the Startup World Cup Virginia qualifier. Gary Warren, what a warrior! That's I love the behind the scenes news that we're still unpacking about this.
And that's why we're still talking about it 6 weeks after the fact, because more and more details continue to emerge. But I think the biggest news was the fact that you all are fresh off of your trip to San Francisco to represent Virginia, and everything went really, really well, in my opinion.
Yeah. What happened?
We got third. You know what they say: if you're not first, you're last. So.
Yep.
They do say that.
It was tough. It's tough competition. A lot of great companies out there. the Wednesday was kind of just behind closed doors, and it was 2 minutes. And then they selected 10 out of that. I didn't think we'd get 10 in there, but we got an email right away. And then we were on the big stage. It was a huge production. Good gosh. It was a real deal. I thought, I was kind of skeptical when I went out there, but it was a real deal.
So I was able to see some of the pictures that were taken when Gary was on stage, Zach. And yeah, it was the monitors, everything was just a giant video wall with slides, and then with Gary pitching logos of Startup World Cup. It was the whole backstage was behind the speaker was all monitored.
It was very crowded too. It was amazing. The guy from Shark Tank was awesome. All of them were awesome. It was a good event.
He's the security guy.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like the fact with that show that they have very unique verticals of the people that they chose for that. And then when they sprinkle in the others, because the guy you went to high school with has been on that show too, right, Tim? Or something like that? Chris Sacca?
Oh, he was one of the judges, at Shark Tank. Yeah, he was a guest judge on Shark Tank.
Okay. So you get on stage, biggest crowd you've ever performed in front of?
No, when I worked at Symantec, I gave a talk at RSA. It was probably about that size, a little bigger.
Nerves, anything like that? Like you get up there, you know what you're doing. You've done the performance enough that everything's, groovy in there. Like, how are you feeling?
No, I'm always nervous when I speak. People just don't. I have a good. I try to start off every time I speak with a joke. The joke is not for the audience; it's to relax me. Actually, As long as I find it funny, I'm okay.
And did you laugh at your own joke that morning?
I do. I laugh inside. Yeah.
Okay. Being stoic, I think, is important, and it can be a difficult. Being on stage, is very difficult. And whether you're up there for a minute, 20 seconds, 4 minutes, sometimes those nerves never go away. And
if you're not nervous a little bit, something's wrong with you.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the thing that's interesting, too, Zach, that I learned earlier this week was that they needed to have a 1 minute pitch, a 2 minute pitch, and a 4 minute pitch all prepared. And with slides turned in and everything. So I guess as you went down the process, Gary, that revealed the next pitch that you would have to do. How did you just go in being prepared to deliver a 1, 2, and 4 minute pitch?
Well, we went in prepared. I knew it was going to be a big event, and I didn't know media, who was going to be on TV or anything like that. So, in fact, between Wednesday and Friday, I was traveling with 2 people, Jacqueline and Aaron, and they flew down to LA to do customer visits, and I just practiced in front of the mirror in my bathroom, frankly. You had to get that timing down because 4 minutes are cutting you off.
Well, there's 84 different regional finalists there.
Yeah, some they were pretty good. It was tough. When then they called ivWatch, I was surprised again.
Well, one thing that Tim and I have talked about ad nauseum on the show is those founders, those business owners that are willing to raise their hand and do something maybe that they weren't expecting to do. So, when Tim told me that you guys were, I guess, interested, we're going to be one of the finalists. I thought that was great because we look at the word startup and we've defined it as, okay, I'm at a bar and I, write something on a napkin. Yet, you're still an early stage business that just has been doing this for a little bit longer. To see kind of where that is. I thought that was really cool. And I appreciate that you were willing to get on that stage. I think it also really helped some of the in between of those companies that are like, hey, I get to be on stage with those companies. I think that they were very, very appreciative of that opportunity to say, hey, I'm in the same, sandbox with these guys. And we've heard that. And so it's pretty cool to do that. Just, were you thinking about not doing it? Was it an immediate yes? What made you say yes? When you heard about the show?
Someone told me I had to do it, and she's in this room.
Got it. Well, thank you, someone.
Yes. It was.
What did she threaten to put an IV in the wrong thing?
No,
Okay.
no. You know what? It's in all seriousness. 90% of it right now is we're just trying to get our name out there in word and about the problem we're solving. Because it's such a huge. I mean, it's probably the biggest problem in healthcare, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And healthcare doesn't exist unless you're getting the bag of IV drugs in your vein. And so any opportunity we get to do anything, we do it. So I spend most of my time. I have a great team here. I have somebody that does the operations and focuses internally. Best decision I ever made is having somebody do that. And then there's a group of us that focus on the external stuff, and I do that. So
I appreciate that. I think more people need to act like that. I think it's no one knows who you are. It doesn't matter. Like, there are still people who are learning about Facebook, right? It's like, really? Like, or whatever big company. It's just like, don't be afraid to get out there more. Repetition is important. You never know who you're going to get in front of. You never know what could happen from it.
You never know.
I don't know why companies don't just jump at opportunities. It's like, who knows where this can go?
And I get tired of flying. It's you fly too much when you can identify the aircraft model by the door jamb when you board. And we're traveling every week. I mean, it's exhausting. People, they see the pictures on LinkedIn and go, "Oh, that looks so great." But I'm telling you, they're 18-hour days, day after day after day. But you got to do it. I'm not a believer in teams that with customers. I think you got to be in front of them. You got to be able to read the room. So, we're just out there.
So with that, I mean, we're kind of jumping ahead in terms of what it is that you're doing, but you're scaling at this point. And so you're traveling around the world, meeting with hospital decision makers to introduce your product into their system. Is it?
Yeah. And I'll give you a quick example. We were in Prague, the World Congress of Vascular Access conference, big conference, probably about 1,500 people. And I gave a talk there with somebody from the NHS from the UK presenting some data. And then I got back here, and sure enough, somebody from one of the major cancer hospitals, world known in the US, said, I saw Gary on our web form, said I saw Gary and Andrew talk, and can you come visit us? And I'm on a plane the next week.
That's awesome.
It is the amount of travel that you are doing is crazy. Zach, Gary, and I were exchanging emails just during this. It seems like anywhere there's a layover that you have, you're like, can we extend that layover and meet with?
Oh yeah, and we hire people. So this is my first startup company I did was, it was back in the 90s, 96. And so back then, the internet really wasn't a thing where you book travel. So every Monday morning, the travel agent would come over literally with a shoebox full of airline tickets for people to fly around. And now it just fills my email up. But when we hire people, we tell them, on the revenue side of the company, we tell them you're going to be traveling a lot. And it's the travel we do is not like I said, it's not normal travel. We've done 3 countries in a day, and we typically try to hit 2 cities every day. And trying to do that on a public airline can be really hairy. So,
your first company is the 90s company. Is that Symantec that we're talking about?
So Symantec acquired it. Yeah.
Okay.
UR Labs.
And so this is your second company?
Third.
What was in between?
So I went from UR Labs, sold to Symantec. And then I left Symantec and I ran a company called ivWatch, but it was you could develop mobile applications and put them on your BlackBerry. And you remember back then when smartphones came out from Nokia and Sony Ericsson, and it was just really capital intensive. So Oracle ended up buying it, didn't do very well on that. And then I'm here at ivWatch as number 3. So
interesting. That was pretty good.
4 years as well.
Pretty good track record there. I think a lot of people in this region have very high hopes for ivWatch. I remember when I think you and I had known each other, but then ivWatch gets started in there and very high hopes in there, 2016, 17, 18, whatever time frame that was. And it's still cool to see you guys rocking and rolling now, and maybe Exit 3 will happen there with some excitement there when you guys are ready to do that. But
medical's tough though. Medical's a lot harder than just software. I got into medical because 14 years ago with ivWatch because I was like, wow, look at the returns medical gets. But the amount of the capital intensive nature of it. We're a class 2 medical device and highly regulated with the FDA and we're in 12 countries, so every country you got to go through the regulatory process. And so it's just very capital intensive, and it takes about 17 years for a new medical product to become standard of care. So this is the hardest thing I think I've ever done, but it's worth it, man. I love getting up and coming to work. So
so you realizing medical had a lot of returns. How did you narrow in on this particular problem that you wanted to solve?
So it's kind of a 2-part answer. I was giving a talk at as an entrepreneurial forum, and then somebody approached me and talked to me about how they developed this through NIH grants, and so I looked into it. The format of our product is just disposable as well as a capital piece, so you get that recurring revenue. And so then I flew around, did due diligence, and what had happened was a major children's hospital said, if you move your clinical work here, we'll pay for it. And that never happens unless it's a real problem. So I got involved, and it's kind of like, yeah, I can help out here and build this because I got an engineering background. I brought over a couple of engineers from that, bought the assets, and then I ended up getting hurt really, really bad. I fell over the edge of a boat onto a floating dock, and then I had like a total of 8 surgeries, and they had to reconstruct my forearm, and so I got to live the whole problem with IVs for years, and there's nothing more motivating than being on the receiving end of healthcare. So it's kind of, we're not really, people come up to us, even at the World Cup. On Wednesday, we pitched. Everywhere we go now, people come up to me and they say, I've had this happen to me, and they show us their scars. And so people, when we talk to customers, a lot of times they say, you're not really selling a product, you're selling a mission. And so we're kind of fortunate to really be out righting a wrong right now. And, I like that feeling better than just developing software.
I know that some of the posts that the pictures that you've posted on LinkedIn, they're pretty graphic. Yeah. And they're pretty wild. I mean, it's just like, it's a pretty routine thing to go in and, have someone put a needle in you and do that. I mean, it's jarring. And every time I see it, I get queasy, but it's the real thing. And what are the numbers? 1 in 6 go in wrong, 1 in 5, something like that. What is it?
Well, actually the numbers are worse than that. Half of all IVs fail. They don't make it all the way through their dwell time to deliver the drugs. But the numbers in the research, it's 1 in 6 to half. In some populations like newborns, it's 80%.
Jeez.
So it's just a real problem. And people, I have this theory that people don't want to recognize a problem until there's a solution. And so now we're out there showing them this doesn't have to happen.
Yeah, it's fascinating just in sense of thinking about those pictures. You have newborns. That's very difficult from an IV standpoint. And then, fast forward all the way to the aging population. I know with my mother-in-law, anytime that, as you age, those veins get really, really delicate and really, really tough to get it right.
I don't know if you remember, during the pitch down in Norfolk, there was a woman named Melissa, and she's holding her hand up like this, and half of her hand was amputated. And she went in just for a back procedure and ended up, with, 7 years of suffering. And the most sad thing is her son is like 14, asked her to stop coming to school because of her disfigurement. And, that's the hard part.
All of the results of a faulty IV.
Yeah.
You said something that's interesting. People don't think there's a problem until there's a solution. So in that, unpacking that, do you think it's people just like they're like, oh, okay, like you go in, it's normal, and whatever. But then once you see it from the numbers perspective, oh, there is this thing, and then all my friends are starting to talk about, like, unpack that a little bit more. Like, why do you think people don't think this is as serious as it is? And obviously, you said you think this is one of the biggest medical issues out there, but yet it's not very known to people that this is a huge problem. Why do you think that is?
I think it's still not known how devastating this problem is, frankly, even in healthcare, because it's not about the injury that happens. I mean, sometimes the injuries are bad. Every time it happens, it's a drug error. So, I give the example, if you're a stroke victim and you go in and they got to get an anticoagulant in your veins, 1 out of 6 times are missing. And, that's the same odds as Russian roulette. And they don't put on your death certificate, oh, the IV I missed. They just say you died of stroke. So the drug error, it hasn't really been, fully explored. I mean, people wake up on the operating room table because the anesthesia is not going in their veins. And it's just, I don't think the drug error side has been fully explored.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because certainly, I would think the hospitals want to keep everything quiet, if there is a mishap. And the same would hold true in terms of the drug companies. They don't want anything. I would think they don't want to get that out either. I would think that hospitals would be, when you meet with them, fairly welcoming.
Well, it depends on what country you're in. So that's why we went international.
Wow.
Socialized medicine platforms, the dollar all stops at the same spot. And the U.S. is kind of jacked up. They make, if you get hurt in the hospital generally makes money on the fact they hurt you. So from the insurance company, it's called a hospital acquired condition. And some of them, the insurance companies and starting to wise up to it. But the U.S. has just got this kind of twisted system that you can make money off of hurting people. I had a chief medical officer of a big hospital system tell me that in healthcare, their business model was to provide the least amount of healthcare for the most amount of money. That's in the U.S. And overseas, you don't really have that issue. Wow. Yeah. This was supposed to be a funny podcast. It's getting pretty serious.
Well, it's just so like
we'll make it fun.
Yeah, with
I mean, I'm ready to leave. I'm getting
with how long does it take to onboard a hospital? They say that they want your product. Do you have to go in and send a team to train them, or with the sensors you have, it's just auto magic?
No. So there is a sales cycle associated with it. Historically, from the hospitals want to do an evaluation. Theranos, you remember Elizabeth Home and Theranos kind of boogered it up for everybody because now hospitals just don't believe anything, right? They're like, yeah. So hospitals will typically want to do an evaluation in one unit, ICU or operating rooms or something. And then from the time we finish that eval, the average time to closure is about 6 months in the U.S., probably a little longer overseas because you got to go through the budget cycles for the hospital, which are annual. The shortest we've had it is probably about a month. We went into an infusion center in the United Kingdom, and the guy said, you can't take these out because everybody wants it. And he was having 2 to 3 injuries a week, and we drove it to 0. But it's generally six months from eval time, and probably about 3-4 months before that. So it's almost 12-month sales cycle.
Interesting. Because I'm just thinking that if a hospital didn't have it, from a B2C play, to me, I would want to make sure that I would have something like this in case they missed it. I would be the guy wanting to bring your device to the hospital and say, hey, before you do this IV, this is what I want being used.
Oh, it's not that expensive. I think we should add to our patient monitor credit card swiper or something on it, so the patient can say, I want it. I mean, I heard the story of your wife, Tim, on that podcast. That's terrible. That's an extravasation of a blood product. It's terrible.
Yeah, and then after talking to you earlier this week, I didn't realize that how potentially serious that could have been. Just because it was downplayed so much when it actually occurred.
What happened?
Remember when we were talking on the pod when we were doing donating blood platelets?
Yeah.
And then you take it out, you take the blood out of one arm, they strip the platelets out, and then they return the blood in the other arm. Well, when they were returning the blood into the other arm, they missed that vein.
That's right.
And so for however long, she could just felt her arm tightening up because it was just her arm was being filled with blood not being returned into the vein. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, her entire arm was completely bruised because.
So the last State of the Startup address we did was in 2018, I believe. You were a finalist to be the startup champion, Gary. Did not win then. Probably third place then. Sounds like that's your favorite number. But we went around, interviewed the 4 or 5 finalists, and I think I asked you a question, something along the lines of like, what's the biggest thing lacking in the business startup community here? And you said access. And that was access to, you said something like, I have to go to Minnesota or Ohio to get into a hospital. And with the amount of hospitals here, you would think that I would have some access to be able to get in. You feel like that's changed? Have you been able to get into a hospital there? Why do you think that is? Like, is it just territorial? Like, okay, just give me your overall thoughts. Sounds like you've had 6 years of thoughts on this, and the third places, just generally where do you think about all that from a access perspective? Because I think it's a great word. It's a really easy to understand word. I 100% agree with you. What are your just general thoughts?
Even before we jump, I don't even know if our region is considered to have a lot of hospitals. I think that we're on the lower end of like population per hospital / physician. I think that we're relatively low. If I remember,
I was just thinking of the amount of Centeras there are. Aren't there like 120 in this region?
Not hospitals, no.
Or medical practices of some.
Yeah. There's 3 big players in the region. Mary Immaculate, Riverside, and Centera. I guess I'd address that problem this way. You're all familiar with the diffusion of innovation curve, right? Where you have, you have the innovators and you have the, I forget the 7 things, but it's, innovators, early majority,
early
adopters.
Yeah.
Right? That's a theory from 1963. And if I go around the room filled with hospital executives and say, where do you fit on this curve? 99% of them would say they're innovators. The reality is they're in the laggard column. And, people like to follow in healthcare. They don't like to lead. And there's, and even within a hospital system, you'll have people that are innovators and some that are laggards. And if you remember from laggards, those are people that still try to use payphones, right? So, and I just don't think, frankly, I just don't think that the healthcare around this area, I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, is not that innovative. It's very do what somebody else is doing. People don't fly here to get their arm worked on. I flew to Minnesota to Mayo Clinic to get my arm reconstructed. You don't fly here. Nobody flies here to get work done.
Yeah. Is that primarily, I'm sure it's just a matter of they want things de-risked as much as possible because then it's a potential insurance issue as well. I don't know. To me, this seems like it's just a no-brainer. It's a low-cost, low-risk, no-brainer decision to supply ivWatch and your products.
Yeah, I would agree. You want to go on travel next week?
Yeah. It just, with 2 billion, it's 2 billion IVs a year
globally. Yeah, and in the U.S., it's about 1-for-1 match with the population. So, in the U.S., there's about a little over 300 million catheters sold every year. About a little over 300 million people in the U.S. Now, it's not meaning everybody's getting an IV, but people get multiple IVs when they're ill.
What's the friction? Like,
why
are these medical groups, these hospitals not jumping on board? Like Tim said, it seems like a no-brainer. Like, clearly it's a problem. Doesn't cost a lot. Like,
yeah, well, so when our device goes off, you have to change the IV, right? And we pick up. So I don't know, the way we have this little bitty sensor. It goes on. I mean, this thing's dinky. Goes on next to your IV site. And we pick up fluid in as little as 0.2 cc's. The average is about 2 cc's, and we can claim 99% sensitivity for 10 cc's or less. And the way it works, the concept's simple, is we put a bunch of different colors light into your skin, into your tissue, and then we look at how they're reflected back, and we can tell you when a drug's showing up that's not supposed to be there. The problem that happens is we pick it up in low volumes sometimes, and the standard of care right now in IV therapy for extravasation detection or infiltration detection is wait for the injury to show up. So we alarm before the injury shows up, and then they go, well, I don't know if I believe it, but it's 99%, and so that's where the skeptics come in. That was a problem really bad probably 4 years ago, but we're not seeing that now. Now, like last year, we did 7 evals in 7 hospital systems, and this year we're resource constrained. We'll probably do about 50 evals this year, so it's being recognized more and more now. And I think it goes back to that. There's not a problem unless there's a solution. And we're starting to get a lot of research papers coming out that are peer reviewed now that we didn't write. Just getting FDA clearance, people go, yeah, you got to actually have people that are not financially tied to the organization. Like in Australia, there's a $1.4 million grant down there in 3 different hospitals sponsored by the Australian government to evaluate ivWatch. So those things are all coming out now. So the late majority laggard people have to recognize that it works because independent people say it works well.
Yeah, I just break everything down from a mathematical standpoint. So say there are 300 million in the United States. If half of those are not going to be.
Yeah, last year there was a $11 million jury award in Indiana for a guy that went in for a surgery, and they were just putting fluids in. I guess it was his upper body because they had to put the IV in his foot, and it was just saline. And he ended up getting, it's called compartment syndrome. It's what your wife could have got. So you get so much fluid in the tissue or in the limb that it ends up collapsing the capillaries and the vascular structure. And so it starves the limb from getting blood, and then they have to amputate. But anyway, this guy had his lower leg amputated because he was in for surgery, and the jury gave him $11 million award. So you could buy a lot of ivWatch for $11 million. A lot.
Well, yeah, that's just, you prevent just one. If you have a 50% failure rate, you avoid just one. Yeah, that's the one lawsuit that you could have avoided. I mean, to me, it just.
Yeah, some hospitals, especially children's hospitals, they've told us that's the number one reason they get sued. It's bad.
What are you doing on these long plane rides? What are you doing when you're in the air?
Usually working on PowerPoint slides. So we end up working. I mean, the plane ride is not a joy ride, trust me. No, we usually plug into the internet and continue working.
Is it pretty easy to get a meeting these days? You just say, "Hey, it's Gary. Like, I'm coming to town," or is there?
Yeah, I can fly to an area and fill up the week.
Okay. Was that the same 6 years ago, or has it gotten significant? Okay,
gotten significantly better.
What changed in that? What in that threshold?
I think there's a confluence of a couple things. One is the pandemic happened, and so we started getting a lot of nurse burnout, and so your more experienced nursing staff and medical staff basically is leaving the healthcare system, and so now we have more junior people coming in. And they're just not as experienced in placing IVs. So this problem is starting to really rear its ugly head in a big way in a lot of hospitals because of more junior, less experienced nursing staff.
One of the things that's really neat that a lot of people, I'm sure, do not know about is that you do all of you're located in Newport News, and in your facility, that's where that's where it's all taking place. It's just that's where everything's manufactured, packaged, sent. It's a really, really neat facility, and super thankful and fortunate to be able to get to take a quick tour of that earlier this week. But to have that manufactured and everything taking place locally is something really, really neat. Was it always the intention to do it locally?
Yeah, it was. I mean, our supporters, investors and stuff are from this area and really want a lot of that here. The other thing is it's somewhat of a protection mechanism from competitive threats. When you farm out your engineering and you farm out your manufacturing and you farm out your sales and everything, what happens is then other medical device companies that want to get in the space, and trust me, there's some big ones. They end up going to your vendors and say, make this ivWatch product for me. And it's very dangerous, and it's happened to us many times. And so, having it all under one roof really helps protect the IP of the company. And then the other thing is development times are compressed a little. There's more of an understanding when you make it yourself, because the engineering team and the manufacturing team can work together. And that's the way it was in the old days. You all remember the SR-71 Blackbird jet?
Yep. My favorite plane.
Yeah. So, Skunk Works, when they developed that, they put the engineers and the tool makers and everybody in the same hangar. And they got the first prototype done in like 11 months. And we didn't know how to fly fast back then. And that's kind of the way we work here. Everybody is very open. You probably noticed that when you were here. And so you can go down on the manufacturing line and try stuff out. Most companies can't do that. If you farm it out, you lose that expertise.
What kind of plane is that behind you? Is that an SR-71?
No, that's
F-18.
It's an F-18. This is pretty cool. Signed by all the Blue Angels.
That's cool.
My son's in the Blue. One of my sons is in the Blue Angels. This is his last season.
Oh, cool. How close do those planes get to each other?
Oh my God, they're crazy.
I mean, it seems like they're real close.
I think there's a movie out called Blue Angels. I mean, they're like 12 inches apart on the wingtips. And they're going like 500, 600 miles an hour. I think they're suicidal. They're crazy.
Wow.
I could tell you stories, but I'm not going to. My son calls me up and he's like, tells me what happened this week. And it's pretty funny. But he's the not chief medical officer. What is he? He's a flight surgeon for the Blue Angels. So I get treated well. So now I'm going to get in trouble with my other 3 boys because I didn't mention them. I have 4 boys.
Mm-hmm.
They're all very good.
Who's your favorite?
I don't have a favorite.
Least favorite?
No, I don't have a least favorite.
He questioned it. He was like, well, I kind of want to say John.
I'm like, No, they all, you know what? They all left the house when they were supposed to. I used to tell them when they were growing up, they could either go to school, go in the military, or go to prison, but they were leaving at 18. And all of them went in the military except one. One of them actually worked here with me. He runs all of our ERP and IT systems and stuff. So.
With that, one of the things that stood out to me was you have built a really, really strong team. And it seems like they've been with you for a long, long time. It's kudos to you. One of the things that I always like, a little thing I like to do when I go to Costco is like look to see the year worked here since whatever number. And when you see people that have worked at Costco for like 20 years, it tells me that the culture is strong. They're taking good care of you. But to hear how long that your team members have been with you, that says a lot. And that's such an important part of a company's success. So
very cool. It is. It's not easy either building a team because you got to get along. I mean, you're spending a lot of time together and so we've had hiccups along the way, but right now we're kind of, we got just a great group of people across the board. It's really awesome. I mean, you got to get up in the morning, like to go to work, right?
Are they distributed? Are they mostly here? How does that landscape look?
The sales force, and and clinical staff that we use to install things. Like our head of global sales, we actually have an office over in the UK, and we have like 3 people in the UK now. One's in Dubai. We have someone that we just hired in Florida, but they're mostly associated with the revenue side. Non-revenue things are all here pretty much under one roof.
Good.
The remote thing, I'm telling you, the pandemic just introduced a really toxic culture, I think, into companies, especially salespeople, because what would happen is you end up people picking up the phone going, "You want to buy my stuff? You want to buy my stuff? You want to buy my stuff?" And it's not about that. It's about relationships, right? You got to be face to face with customers. You got to go see them. You got to take them out for a drink or go play golf or do something. Go flying in their airplane. I actually have a picture. I went to Cincinnati, and the guy, one of the interventional radiologists, took me up in his little bitty Grumman plane. That's the kind of stuff you got to do.
Face to face is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, especially from the manufacturing side. I mean, so
you don't want to touch it. Yeah.
Well, but yeah. And to take that one step further, like one of the things that you all were tracking was like the rejection rate in terms of when you're putting the sensors together and building the product, I guess, for lack of a better term. But like, it's really, if all of a sudden there happens to be a spike, or an outlier day or something, you can walk downstairs and say, "Hey, what's going on? Is everything okay?" And that's something that's pretty important.
Yeah. What have we made now? 340,000 sensors, and our scrap rate is less than 1%. They do an incredible job.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Is that trophy there the whole time?
No, I slid that guy out when we had the single shot of Gary. But
the hell is that?
That's the hardware from San Francisco.
They sent it to you. I didn't get one. What are we doing here?
Yeah,
did you steal that?
He did.
The thing is, like, knowing that there was $1 million on the line, I was like,
wait, clearly. That's Gary's trophy, his 3rd place trophy. You stole it?
He did, and he was walking out the door, and I said, "Tim, what's under your shirt?" And he said, "Nothing."
Yeah,
stuffed the thing up under his shirt.
Well, because I was like convinced. I was like, man, there's $1 million on the line for this thing.
Yeah,
and I saw what the 1st place trophy was, and it was a pretty decent size. It was like the Stanley Cup kind of size. But I was like, I wanted to take this thing home thinking that there might be a check like stuffed inside this thing somewhere because.
So you dismantled it, checked it out. There's no check.
Honestly, I was like, I don't know how the heck you guys got that thing from San Francisco back here without any damage. I was like, I'll be the guy that just takes it 5 miles down the road and
drops it.
Something will happen to this thing.
Yeah, I didn't bring it back. Jacqueline brought it back. I have no idea how she got that on the airplane. I mean, that thing looks like a weapon.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't think she checked it. I think she carried it on and probably put it on her seat back.
So when you won the award, I gave you the belt and you said you don't want that damn thing. I still put it on you. It looks great in the pictures, but you didn't want to win the title?
I was afraid that pictures of me and that belt would show up around the office, and they have.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, you know what? Like, there was a picture of me in a suit, and someone on the dark web produced that. I don't know, like that. I was not in a suit that day, so like that was the robots, the AI. Like, so you could just tell people that was it's not a real thing. It didn't really happen.
No, they're apparently the team. We talk about the team here. One of my team members was standing behind me, holding up that belt behind me, going, "Yeah, nice." Just saw that picture this week.
Congratulations. See, memories. That's what we're all about. Is making memories.
No, that was a great event. I was really glad we went. We had a really good time. So.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was definitely a lot of pressure from all different angles. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, you screwed up my song. So
Yeah.
I heard my song, walk-on song at your event was supposed to be Under Pressure by Queen and
David Bowie.
David Bowie, and it ended up being some mamby-pamby love song or something. So like you got me all rattled walking up on stage. So I got a burning arm, the wrong music.
Wait a second. Really? What song did play? Mamby Pamby. What the hell is that?
Well, it was the first. It was the first choice, and then there were. Aaron had talked to me. He was like, she asked if they can call an audible, and I was like, yep. And then we sent that to the DJ. I verified with the DJ that everything was good, and then it turned out that it was not.
So that, you like it to start with a joke. We were trying to joke you getting on stage. That's just.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then I was waiting to fall off the stage because. There was no rail. It was, I don't know if you remember, it was black carpet and then black stage.
Oh, yeah.
And, my eyes are not that good. And so I was like, everybody's like, do not get near the edge.
And when you got close, or when you actually got on stage, it got significantly hotter, correct?
I noticed it hot out in the lobby area. I didn't notice it hot on stage. But I'm an old guy. So, I keep my thermostat at like 78 degrees in the house. So, I'm like, it felt good to me.
That's nice. 78.
I have no blood flow anymore. So.
One of the things Gary, I was on your LinkedIn profile today, and we have a somewhat of a bonding thing. Yeah, my very first car was a 1978 Chevette.
Ooh, this is a year newer than mine.
In Gary's profile, he had mentioned his first three vehicles, he owned three Chevettes. So
yeah,
we're unique in that sense. I don't know many people that are previous Chevette owners.
Wow.
I had a yellow one, a blue one, and a brown one.
What are you driving these days?
What am I driving these days?
Yeah.
An Acura. It's a Honda. It's a Honda Accord with leather seats. Yeah. I'm not big into the car thing much anymore because, well, obviously I wasn't before, but cars they're just so expensive, and it's like the worst depreciating asset on the planet.
I was looking at some the other day, just like, okay, like I bought my dream car 15 years ago. It was a Jeep Wrangler. I haven't wanted to get rid of it. I don't want to get rid of it, but I was like, let me just look at some stuff. I'm like, man, these cars are like $80,000, $90,000.
Yeah,
like, what? This car used to be $40,000. What happened? Like,
yeah, and every time I buy a car, I will tell you about one son. He has wrecked 8 cars in an airplane. So all my cars, so now I just buy disposable ones.
Okay.
Well, the Chevette is in a class of its own. I remember mine. The floorboards are rotted out. If you pulled up the car,
Catalytic converter and the road, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
And the seat was bolted to the top of the part that was rotted out, so you could actually rock in the.
Yeah, but I think that's really important part of growing up. Yeah, and we tell our kids. Both of my kids are in college now. It's like you gotta start out poor. You gotta earn your way. You gotta learn what it's like to be hungry.
Well, you know what? I will confess this. A few years ago, I actually found a restored Chevette on eBay, and there's no such thing as a restored Chevette. And I was like that close. It's only a few $1,000 just to put it in my garage and say that's the first car I had.
Yeah.
What year Chevette was it? I don't even know what that
mine
was.
Was a 78.
My first one was a 77. So you had the crisscrosses on the grill. Mine was just one bar.
Yeah, that was all I could afford.
Wow, that's like a Pinto.
I paid like $350 for that thing.
That is a
hell of a. I paid $900 for mine, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tim, where did you share those pictures? Did you just text them to me, or is there the pictures of all at the event? I'm trying to figure out if I can see one of these pictures of Gary with the belt up like this behind him. Did you remember you sent me all this? Did you just text it to me, or is it like a Google Drive thing?
There's VIPC. They have the whole photo gallery of the event, which was really nice of them to send a photographer.
The whole time I thought it was someone from the media. I was like, who is this?
Well, we lost control early with stage crashers and everything else that was going on.
We were aloof. No idea what we were doing up there. You know, that's what we want people to believe.
Were you nervous?
It was all staged.
You know, there was me. There was so much going on that I had so much on my mind. I didn't have a lot of time to even think about being nervous. We were trying to get slides done and trying to get the mirroring to work, and the air conditioning
that's what the
out.
holdup was. We couldn't get the mirroring going on, and that took like 15 minutes, which was just a disaster. And then we were backstage, and then we start getting introduced, and we thought that we had like 10 more minutes to go for that. So we're running upstairs into the staircase so that no one could see us. It's hot as hell in this room. Like, that's probably what made it hot, Tim, is that staircase. Because we sat there forever.
We booked upstairs.
And then there was
we were down low.
Then there was this door that we had propped open beforehand, but then it didn't stay, so we had to then jerk it again. That was pretty wild. So it was a good time.
Yeah. How often do you host people to this area, Gary? Or do you do most of the traveling on your going to them?
We mostly go to them. We bring people over once in a while. But yeah, we usually go to their facility.
Are you from here?
No, I grew up in the northern part of the Lower Peninsula of Michigan, and
oh, really?
I moved here in '82. I started college when I was in 1980, and I couldn't afford to go to school anymore, and so I got a job at NASA as an engineering intern, essentially. So I could go to school semester, work a semester, go to school semester, and help pay for school. And I actually met my wife on the first day I started at NASA, which you're not allowed to do anymore, I guess. But anyway, so I've been here since, been in the area since '82, and then I graduated in '85. And then I went to Mississippi State for my graduate degree in aerospace engineering.
Ever thought about leaving?
No, never. My wife has thought about kicking me out, but I haven't ever. But no, we like to keep
those birthday gifts coming.
Yeah, we like this area. It's when you're here that long, and the kids, all their friends are here, and so we're kind of permanent. We live up in Williamsburg, which is kind of a bubble.
It is that for sure. It is that for sure. But I didn't realize that you were a Michigander. My wife is from Owasso, and it's.
It looks good on you. That belt looks good on you. Come on, Tim in the background with his star suit. I mean, this is an epic image that will go on as just legendary. So
this is not funny. You know what? This podcast.
You said you wanted to have fun.
It's on a big screen right outside my office, and the entirety of ivWatch is out there laughing right now.
Yeah, I had a little gulp. The newsletter went out announcing you the winner. That was the picture we used because that was the only picture that we had. And Gary replied back with "nice" or something like that. It was a one-word thing. I was like, oh gosh, last thing I want to do is upset people. Yeah, but I appreciate you being such a good sport about it.
Yeah, well, you have to be work around this place.
These are good pictures. I guess I didn't look at these that thoroughly before. Wow.
Yeah.
Which pictures?
But But you have some good restaurant choices when you bring people in town and you're entertaining. What is the food of the region, and where do you typically take somebody? Williamsburg is there's a lot to choose from in Williamsburg, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite restaurant in Williamsburg. What's the name of that place? La Yaca. It's a French restaurant. It's really good, but it actually, French food has got a lot of cream in it. So my wife and I, and Jacqueline, her husband, went to dinner there one night, and I got the cream of asparagus soup. It was to die for, and creme brulee for dessert. And I ended up getting my gallbladder removed that night because of the attack from all the cream, I think. Well worth it.
Yeah, the cheese shop is you always got to hit the cheese shop. That's
it's very hard to get in there. You got to make a reservation.
It's crazy.
Really?
Like a month ahead of time. It's nuts.
It's that busy now? Wow.
Yeah. All those restaurants in downtown Williamsburg are just so hard to get into now. I don't know how restaurants go out of business in Williamsburg. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll hit Opus 9 from time to time. There's a lot to choose from in Williamsburg.
Yeah, I took some people that were from out of town to one of the taverns there in Colonial Williamsburg. It actually had pretty good food. I hadn't been there in 10
really?
years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I've never done the tavern thing. I didn't even realize
how good it was. So
that would be really, really neat.
And I'm pretty picky, so when we travel, I have a Yelp rule. If it's not 4 stars on reviews, we don't go there.
Makes sense. What's next for you guys?
To make all those pictures that you see on extravasations go away. Right now we're just in growth mode. We're just trying to get, it's just about getting more clients and revenue and more clients. We have some good stuff coming out in the product pipeline as well. Keep growing the business, and something will happen. We have a lot of options available to us on whether we exit via acquisition or IPO or leaving it all open.
Well, one of the things we are going to continue to push on our end. We're super, super proud of everything that you've all been able to do, and with you leading the company. It's just we're super fortunate to have you, and
well, thank you.
You to stick around in this region, and yeah, I'll be super happy. We want ivWatch to be that global company, and like I told you earlier this week, to make ivWatch, to have you all as a unicorn representing this region would be really, really amazing. And yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it takes a village, though. I mean, our investors are mostly local. We've just had incredible support in this region, so we're very fortunate of that.
Do you think there's a lack? Do you think there's a lack of people supporting? Like a lot of people talk about just the business community and not kind of promoting and celebrating and championing all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's still going on, or do you think it's improved? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's improved substantially. I mean, that first company that I started in the 90s, I mean, I got called arrogant because I wanted to have the signage of our company on the building, and we were taking over a whole floor. And so it was really bad in the 90s. But now I'm telling you, whenever I ask for help for ivWatch, for just across the board on anything, we get it. And we pretty much have, but you have to respect, the people that work with you on, from the people that are, work here to the investors, to the board. I mean, we run this company like a company. It's not me being a dictator running around. Mm-hmm. So it's a village.
So what I heard from that is ask for help, because maybe the people that are complaining about it not being the way that they want, they're not willing to ask for help in that situation, and that's why they don't get it. So don't be afraid to raise your hand. Ask for help. Yeah, I dig that. Tim?
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of takeaways from this episode in terms of some of the earlier stage founders need to take notes on, and the fact that you've got a great product, it's protected, it's global. You have a great team that is supporting you. You continue to add the customers, and then when you have those three elements, that's your flywheel is certainly turning at this point, and the faster we can get that flywheel turning, the better outcome it's going to be for everyone. The fact that you even fighting this fight for as long as you have, you're continuing to support the local region, which is really awesome. You're inspiring the folks behind you. So I'm super, super grateful. And yeah, it's great to have you on the show, and great to have you represent Virginia, and how serious you took the competition, and how disappointed you were that that third wasn't good enough. So yeah, that's awesome. I love that competitiveness.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been great, Gary. Until next time, you champion, you.